You guys, we are here at Coburg Car Wash because it is time for At the Car Wash, and there's Renee.
Hi, Rick.
How are you?
Very good. I heard you met my brother.
I did meet your brother. Like last month we did, see you man, we did the car wash about Reach the Beach. And Renee told me her brother was going to be in Reach the Beach. So we get on the ride, and this guy walks up and he says, "You had my sister on your car wash show." And I'm thinking something completely different. I am clueless. And then halfway on the next 20 miles, I'm going, "That Renee! Oh my gosh!" You know. So Coburg Car Wash sponsors our show today, and today we're going to do something on normal because Renee's not normal.
No.
I'm not normal.
Definitely not.
And normal is highly overrated, so we're going to do some really fun stuff with that. So, Coburg Car Wash, again, sponsors the show. You're kind of busy today. We're going to get our car washed.
We are kind of busy because nice weather brings all the cars, and it's a great day to get your car washed.
Always a great day to just run through. It
Always.
takes less than 10 minutes. I mean, gosh, it's like 5 minutes. Yeah, unfortunately, we have to start our conversation out here because we can't get through. So
That's right.
I'm going to go introduce him to
All right.
Alyssa, my friend who's not normal.
All right, thanks, Rick.
You're welcome. See you, Renee. All right, you guys. So we got a fun show for you today. This is going to be interesting for you. Okay. So I get to drive and go through the car wash.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's Alyssa.
I can hold this.
Can you hold that?
Sure, no problem.
Okay, you can see that? Sure. Okay, guys, so this is Alyssa.
Elisa.
I said it wrong. I'm sorry.
Of course.
And Alyssa and I met a few years ago when she wrote a article in the paper. It was an op-ed piece, wasn't it? Or
Yeah,
letter to the editor, something like that.
op-ed
And
piece.
so Lisa is on the spectrum, which means she has autism. We used to call it... She's a poster child for autism. How do you like that?
What?
But a lot of people don't really understand what autism is, and they don't understand you.
No.
Quite honestly, what do you experience as some? Because we used to call it Asperger's, and she and I still do. Yeah. But in the field, in the world of whatever mental health, they don't like to tie it to the Asperger's name. But what it is it's a high functioning autism, and that's just what it is. And people don't like that either because it sounds like we think we're better than other people. But okay, so what is it that you experience?
Not really fitting in at all. I never have. I got my autism diagnosis really late in life, so I spent most of my adulthood just trying to figure out why I couldn't fit in. Why, conversations with people didn't work out, why I couldn't get a job, why I didn't have a lot of friends. And then when I got the diagnosis, I went, oh, well, that explains it, because, it's just, we're not very good at that.
You see the world differently than other people do.
Yes, thank God.
Neuronormal is really highly overrated, and that's what we call people in the rest of the world. Although
Yeah.
I think more of us are on the spectrum than you probably know.
Yeah, it's, there's some people who are just eccentric, and that's fine. They're creative and they're eccentric. And then there are people who are autistic who aren't creative or, eccentric at all. And then there are neotypical people who are, it's just everywhere. It's just another label.
So when you say people don't understand you, what does that mean? What does that look like or feel like?
Well, I was recently, I train in Aikido, and I was at the weekend camp. And I was working in the kitchen, and I screwed up the rice or whatever, and so I tend to get, as most people with autism do, you tend to focus on something, a mistake you've made, and it's sort of, you get stuck in that rut, that loop, as it were.
It's hard to get out of it.
It's very hard to get out of that loop. But then I went off and sat by myself because I thought, well, I don't want to be bothered or whatever. But I really did want to be, someone to talk to me. But I sat there at a table by myself, and this is a room full of 40 other people. And at the end of the meal, only 2 people that I train with a lot came over and said, "Hey, Elise, what's going on? What's happening?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just really tired." And they said, "Oh, okay." 2 people out of a room full of 40-some people.
And you weren't really tired.
No, I wasn't really tired. I was really upset about, just that not succeeding as much as I would have liked to. One of the problems with autism is that there's no dimmer switch. In other words, if you lose your keys or something, you go, Where are my keys? You know, someone with autism, they'll have a complete meltdown. It's just this on-off switch.
Right.
There's no in between. It's just,
I get what you mean. So you can't turn it up or down.
No,
it's either
just,
all here or all there.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you start a conversation, you have to finish it. If I stop it in the middle, you want to still finish what you're talking about.
Oh, sure. And contrary to what most people think, that when you see someone who, you know, someone's autistic or depressed, and they're by themselves, they prefer to be by themselves, because that's a neurotypical thing. You know, someone's by themselves. The idea is they prefer to be by themselves. The fact is that most people with autism and depression and various other, they would want somebody to talk to them, really, but they don't know how to invite that person up. They don't know how to invite themselves into a conversation. So I can go to a party and I know like 2 or 3 people, and I may end up just talking to those 2 or 3 people because I don't know how to talk to necessarily engage other people in conversation. And you see that a lot. You know, see people with autism, and they tend to be either very quiet or they shut up. But yeah, the real problem is that not being able to be able to engage people in conversation, because you're always on guard of saying the wrong thing or talking too much.
So what is that like? That's got to be really... I would think, I'm just going to use my terms, and don't judge me for it, people,
Sure.
because I'm just trying to get my feelings out, what I'm thinking. That's got to be depressing. To get into a situation where you know that you're already at a disadvantage, and it's like you're speaking French and you're in a room full of English speakers.
Exactly. That's a very good analogy, that you wake up every morning and you have to relearn the French again.
And people ask you, because I remember this from the last time you and I talked, like, okay, Alyssa, so why can't you learn? Here's a situation, you learn you made a mistake, so you learn in that situation, but then most people in the neuronormal world would say, okay, so now I've learned and I can kind of broaden that to other situations that are similar. When you're on the spectrum, it's every situation is a different situation, so you don't learn.
It's a different situation, and you don't necessarily retain that information. So you end up having to add another page to your book of rules. And finally it gets to the point where this book of rules you have to carry around all the time and go, okay, I'm in a situation such and such. Which one is that? How do I remember what to do? And finally at one point you just go, screw it. I don't want to do this anymore. You know, I don't want to carry these rules books around anymore. That's when they talk about, that autistic symptoms will, submerge after late adolescence and reemerge later in life. I'm going, you know what it is? We don't care anymore.
You just get sick of the shit and you say, no way.
Screw it, you know?
Right.
Now, I'm not interested in pleasing anybody anymore. So a lot of it is just, you stop caring. But yeah, every situation you have to gauge, what am I supposed to say? How am I supposed to say this? How far am I supposed to go with this conversation? What can I say? Literally for decades, after every conversation, I would go home and I would debrief. I'd go, okay, what did I say? What did they say? How did I do this? How did I do that? What did their reaction? And it was exhausting. Every encounter is emotionally exhausting.
Deborah wants to know, is it easier for you if someone comes up to you and says, hi, can you engage and talk that way?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure. But what's important to remember is that when you engage someone with autism in conversation, be aware it's not going to be like necessarily a normal conversation with anybody else, and you just have to. That I spoke with a heavy French accent. You know, you kind of have to go. Okay, I have to kind of remember how this sounds.
And so we have expectations as human beings of relationships, and when you're with someone who's with autism, the whole treatment is different.
The standard joke is if you met one person with autism. You've met one person with autism. That's why it's a spectrum, because it's not just one symptom, or a set of symptoms. It's a sort of buffet. And I may have a lot of these symptoms, but somebody who's another autistic person may have a bunch of those other symptoms and have a bunch of those other symptoms.
Teresa Miltenberger's on here. She's a friend of mine. She was in the Thurston High School shooting and was shot.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So she's on here, and she just said, I love you. You make me smile.
Oh, thank you.
That's why I have Alyssa on here, because I wish you could talk to every kid who's struggling with autism, and every family member, because I think you've got a real message for people. It's just, I always say to people, what if the neuronormals are not right? What if they've been classically wrong. Steve Silberman wrote a book called Neurotribes, which I highly recommend everybody read. And basically it's a history of
the so-called experts who were wrong. I mean, they got it wrong a lot. And it wasn't until like the 80s that parents of kids saying, look, there's nothing, you're telling me my kid's schizophrenic or whatever. He's not that. And they dug around and someone dug up Hans Asperger's paper. In German, they went, this is it. And after that, it was like, Leo Kanner's very narrow definition changed.
Right.
Because people went, oh my God, it's much broader than we thought. And they go, yeah, the experts got it wrong. I tell people, look, your kid gets a diagnosis of autism. It's not a death sentence. Don't panic. Don't think, oh my God, my kid will never be able to function
Right.
in the world. Have them hang out with an adult.
Right.
Have them hang out with somebody who has autism. And you'll find out that it's not really that difficult. You'll
Right.
say,
But
and
your
ask them, say,
life,
how do you manage? How do you function? How do you do that? Well, you have to make adjustments.
is your biggest difficulty managing the neuronormals?
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not if people would just accept you the way you are and understand and try to understand how you are, you don't have difficulty with your own personality. It's really trying to fit in. So maybe you're not supposed to fit in.
People have difficulty dealing with someone who's black or Jewish or, or Hispanic or whatever. I mean, the level of people, it's easy. It's basically boils down to laziness. It's easier for me to just simply label this person as X, and then I don't have to deal with that anymore. I'm like, that's kind of this.
That's why we don't understand
judgment.
it, because they're black, they're Jewish,
Or
they're
whatever,
autistic, whatever.
Instead of just saying, oh, this is just a person I have to make, I have just to make adjustments. Like, how tiresome. They're blah, X, blank,
Right.
and so it's just easier. It's easier judgment that way.
When you were a kid, what was it like when you were a kid?
I was just a stepper's child. I was very temperamental and very fussy, and I found people to be incredibly frustrating. I read about it, and I'm writing a monologue about the ASD that I want to do for a TED Talk. And I point this out that it's very difficult for young kids because it's a constant frustration. You're trying to make yourself understood, and people aren't understanding, and you're going,
It's no wonder that you see a lot of people on the spectrum who are when they yell and scream or they get really angry because
it's frustration.
Right. How do you not be that way when the whole rest of the world...
I'm telling you, I'm using the intransitive verb, French verb. Don't you understand that? You people, you don't speak French. What's wrong with you?
If the whole world were autistic, we'd understand them.
Yeah. And so it's just a matter of adjustment. But it's true. There are more neuronormals than there are people who are autistic. So it's sort of the burden. It's like, well, there are more of us than there are of you, so you are the one that have to make the adjustment. And I kind of go, yeah, I do this every single day, probably. When I wake up in the morning, I say, do I really want to deal with people or not? So I spend a lot of time alone because it's less trouble. But, who likes to spend all their time alone?
Right. And people want to have friends and they want to have
sure.
relationships. And I think sometimes people think that folks on the autism spectrum don't really care.
That is probably,
Don't you
that's a
think?
really big misconception.
Right.
The people on the spectrum, they're not sensitive, they're closed off, or whatever. It's just the opposite. It's like lights or loud noises and stuff, and they go, why are you letting it bother you? You go, if you had a third-degree burn on your arm, Rick, and I touched it, it would be very painful. And
Right.
I go, why do you let that bother you? Come on, it's just a burn on your arm.
Right.
You're literally it's like your skin is on fire.
Textures and
this-
clothing bother you.
We're oversensitive, so as a way of dealing with it, you shut a lot of that out
Okay.
because you're overstimulated.
And don't you think we've almost, with the folks on the autism spectrum, that we almost dumb them down? Do you know what I mean? In terms of, we say, you can't feel that way. Instead of just letting them be somewhat temperamental. Or Teresa says sometimes being alone is better. Teresa, you understand that too, because Teresa got changed when the bullet hit her in the head.
Yeah, oh sure.
So now she has some trouble. She's you would love her. She's like you.
You know,
She's very, 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 she has no filters.
Yeah,
And-
that's another good analogy, is that people who've had head trauma, their personalities change.
Right.
But here's the deal, they remember what they were like before.
Right.
And they know they can't ever be like that again. But they really know that they were like that before, but they want to be like they were, but they can't. The same thing with people autistic. We know very often, when I interact with people autistic, they know that they are different. They know that they're not reacting the way they're supposed to.
Or the way
but
culture
they
thinks
can't.
they're supposed to.
Or with neurotypical, to be more neurotypical behavior, but they know that they can't do that, but they really want to be. It's like, I would love to be more sociable. I'd love to have more friends, but I don't get along with people very well, so it's this real quandary. So, you have a head injury and you go, oh, I used to be like that, and I'm like this, and you go, I'd rather be like that, but I can't ever be like that. And it's very frustrating because you're aware of it all the time.
Teresa just said, I bet we'd be best friends. Teresa, you would actually love Alyssa. You really would. And she'd love you because Teresa just says it like it is, I mean, okay, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have you hold that.
Okay.
And you keep talking, and we're going to
Okay.
go through the car wash.
You guys, we're taking longer today because you know what? We're having fun. We're talking about autism. We're talking about neuronormals. We're talking about Elisa. God, I keep doing that. See,
Everybody
that's
does.
my...
Everybody does this. Everybody, I
my-
pronounce my name, and 5 seconds later, meet people mispronounce
Okay, no,
it.
you're not in it. Now you're just showing me.
Whatever.
Yeah.
There we go.
If you're going to be the camera woman, you've got to do it right.
Oh, I can't. I got to be in the frame here.
You know what I hate about going to the car wash? I always get it screwed up when I go in this. You know what I mean? Get the wheels in here right. I always feel like I'm doing it wrong. Okay.
The man has a license to drive.
Okay.
Don't forget to roll up your window.
Shut up. So
I would love to
Elisa and I are friends.
Yeah,
So
we
I
were
can
talking
tell her
about
to
that.
shut up if I want to.
And we were talking about this earlier. So wouldn't it be great if we just got a clunker and just rolled down the window, just ran through
You guys,
car
would
wash?
that be fun for a car wash show? Elisa and I want to just get a car,
and get
a
covered
really
in
crappy car.
goggles,
So
you
if
know,
you have
yeah.
a really crappy car at home, you want to donate to the cause, and then we're gonna drive it through the car wash with the windows down.
As if it's perfectly normal.
Yeah, and keep talking like nothing's happening, like it's okay. We're taking longer because we're really not that normal.
Oh, me either. It's
Okay,
okay.
okay.
We appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and the other thing I have to admit. Oh, am I going the wrong way?
Just pay
See?
attention to what you're doing.
I'm trying.
Okay. There you
Okay.
go.
But see, okay, now where's neutral? Oh, right there. Okay.
And he has a license to drive.
No, so you are so funny. Oh, make sure everything's up. Okay, so the fun part is you're gonna see when we go through here, we turn red and then we turn blue. Okay. So you
Okay.
want to see how you look in red?
Oh, I know. Oh, I saw the other
What?
video, and it's just everything is washed out
Yeah.
completely.
So,
Yeah.
what can you tell people about treating folks with how we should just be? I mean, give us some advice. What would you like us to do?
Oddly enough, it's just treat people with autism as if they're normal. Just go along with whatever they're doing, because there's so much stress about trying to behave normal. So just go whatever they're doing, just sort of go along with it.
Should people also watch how they look? Because you see that when you're doing something that may not be neuronormal activity, you notice when we're looking at you funny. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
Because I think people think sometimes you don't, and you do.
No. People are super aware because so much of communication is body language, and the subtle signals and that, and autistic people just don't do subtle at all. So we're constantly watching that. But the downside of that is very hard for autistic people to make eye contact. It's one of those weird things. I haven't figured out why, but it's just part of the social gene, I guess. So, that didn't take long at all.
No, and then they don't blow us because it makes too much noise. We can't hear, so
Okay.
they turn the blower off for us.
Yeah. There's a bad joke in there somewhere. Anyway,
You're bad. You're bad.
but people, with autism don't make eye contact. Don't take it personal. A lot of it is don't take it personal. It's one of those really handy rules for a lot of things. Anyways, it's just to assume that that the person's behaving the way they are for whatever reason. It's not a reflection on you per se. It's not
Right.
like
And isn't that kind of a big get over yourself? Not you, but us. Is just treat people like you want to be treated.
It's a lot less work, and it's in the end it's a lot more rewarding because they can relax and then you can relax instead of maybe saying, well, how am I supposed to behave because this person is fill in the blank.
Right.
Yeah. Watch where you're going, Rick.
Okay, I am. I'm trusting you to have that camera on.
I will.
So we're talking a little longer than we're leaving the car wash, you guys. So our show is sponsored by Coburg Car Wash. So if you like the fact that we're doing this and talking about issues that other people don't talk about, get your car washed at Coburg Car Wash. Let them know you saw it on the show because they really like sponsoring conversation. I love having you on here because I think people need to hear that other side of life, and I think that that's really good, and you're fun. And I think that's, oh, I forgot my seatbelt.
I gotta put mine on too.
Okay, so anyway, you guys take this show, spread it around to people you may know who might be on the spectrum, but don't write on their page, hey, I think you're on the spectrum, maybe you ought to watch this. That would be pretty offensive, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So never...
Not necessarily. I wish someone had said something to me because I didn't know.
I ask people now because I'll say, are you on the spectrum? Because my wife thinks that I'm on the spectrum. So I think we all have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But don't assume that every person you know is on the spectrum that way.
Yes, I know, dear. I gotta do my seatbelt.
We want Elisa to be safe. So, can you read what Nicole's writing there?
What?
See this one right here? Can you read what she wrote?
No, I'm not wearing my glasses.
Oh, okay. Nicole, we can't read it right now, but we will.
People with autism go through so much. I hope one day others will learn to adapt instead of the opposite.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice if the, because if the neuronormal world is so in tune with itself, why don't they adapt to what the other people are doing? I kind of have a feeling that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
So you guys, again, thank you to Coburg Car Wash. Elisa, thank you. And how can they find you if they want to? Be careful. If you don't want to be found, you don't want to be found.
I have a Facebook page.
Okay, and your last name is McLaughlin?
Yeah, McLaughlin.
So she will go on the comment section and put her information in there so you can get a hold of her if you want to, okay?
Okay.
All right, thanks for being with us at the Car Wash. Tomorrow we're going to be out in Camp Creek at this new property owned by the McKenzie River Trust, finding out how they're using this to try alternatives to farming stuff. So anyway, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Teresa, thanks for being here. See you later.